All right, let's get right into this one. We're going to be looking at what, for years, seemed like the perfect crime. A really brutal execution-style murder that left behind no witnesses, no forensics. The trail just went ice cold almost immediately. But then, years later, a single drunken boast would unravel this shocking conspiracy, one that was put together by the one person the victim should have been able to trust more than anyone in the world. So our story starts on a quiet suburban street just outside of San Antonio in Converse, Texas. The date is November 20th, 2000. And it's an evening that starts out with the promise of a celebration, but it ends in an act of just unimaginable violence.
So yeah, we have to start on that tragic night. This is when a decorated Air Force sergeant gets home from a day on the base and walks right into a trap he never ever could have seen coming.
Our victim is Sergeant Derrick Tolliver. He's 40 years old, a career airman, and by all accounts, he's happy, He's finally in a really good place in his life. He pulls up to his house around 7:30 that evening, still in his uniform, and he's carrying a birthday present for his girlfriend, Lorraine Allen. It just seems like a completely normal, even joyful end to a workday.
The ambush itself was just chillingly simple. It all happened in 3 horrifying steps. So as Sergeant Tolliver walks through his own front door, his girlfriend is upstairs in the shower. The sound of the running water is just masking everything else. And hiding inside, just lying in wait, were 2 killers. The attack was incredibly swift and brutal. 2 shots are fired from a .380 pistol, but they're muffled, using a pillow to suppress the sound. Both shots fired at point-blank range, right into the side of Derrick's head. He died instantly, the birthday gift he was carrying falling right there beside him.
Now, when the police arrived, they walked into what looked, at first glance, like a home invasion that had gone horribly wrong. But, professional eyes sees things differently, and they saw something else entirely. Something that pointed to a much more personal motive and the start of a very long, very frustrating investigation.
Right away, investigators saw a huge problem with the scene. It was staged to look like some chaotic robbery. Drawers ransacked, furniture flipped over. But the really valuable stuff, it was all left behind. Derrick's wallet was there, full of cash. The TV, the stereo, even his girlfriend's purse, all untouched. The detectives knew this was no burglary. This was a targeted hit.
In those first critical 48 hours, every single promising lead just evaporated. His girlfriend, Lorraine, was quickly cleared. Her estranged husband, well, he had a rock-solid alibi, even though he'd threatened Derrick in the past. And Derrick's ex-wife, Theresa Tolliver, she claimed she was out bowling with friends the whole time.
The killers were either professionals or they were just incredibly careful. They left absolutely nothing behind. No fingerprints, no DNA, not a single thread for forensics to work with. The case stalled completely, and it would stay that way, ice cold, for years. But then, 3.5 years go by, and just like that, everything changes. The big break in the case, it doesn't come from some new forensic technique. Oh no, it comes from a smoky room, a drunken boast, and a hidden microphone that was about to blow this whole thing wide open. So how in the world does that happen? Right? How does a case with absolutely 0 leads suddenly crack after all that time has passed? This is it, the smoking gun. An informant secretly records one of the killers, a guy named Jeremy Farr, literally bragging about the murder. And right there, on this tiny micro cassette tape, he lays it all out. The price, who the mastermind was, and the chilling details of the crime. I mean, this single recording, it changed everything.
So with that taped confession in hand, the entire conspiracy just starts to fall apart. And at the absolute center of it all is the ultimate betrayal, a plot for blood money, meticulously planned and orchestrated by family.
So what was the motive for this horrific crime? What was worth a man's life? Well, it all came down to this number, $600,000. That was the value of Sergeant Tolliver's service members' group life insurance policy. The plan was as simple as it was brutal. The mastermind was Derrick's ex-wife, Theresa. Turns out she needed him dead before their divorce was finalized, so she could stay the beneficiary on that massive insurance policy. So she recruited her new boyfriend, Emmanuel Fonza, to be the lookout, and Jeremy Farr to be the shooter, promising them $50,000 for the job. The true cruelty of this whole thing was how that blood money was spent.
While Theresa was out buying Cadillac Escalades, diamond jewelry, getting breast implants, and taking trips to Vegas, her own children, the 2 sons she had with Derrick, were living on food stamps. It's just unbelievable. She bought luxuries with the price of their own father's life.
It took 9 long years, a really long time. But in this final chapter, the wheels of justice finally caught up with everyone involved in Sergeant Tolliver's murder, and their scheme of greed and betrayal, it was finally coming to an end.
In the end, Theresa Tolliver, the mastermind behind it all, was sentenced to life in federal prison with no chance of parole. Her boyfriend and lookout, Emmanuel Fonza, got the exact same sentence. And the shooter, Jeremy Farr, the one who confessed and then testified against them, he received 30 years.
But you know, the story doesn't really end with the prison sentences. The human impact is just so profound. And what has to be the most powerful act of tribute, one of Derrick Tolliver's sons later joined the Air Force himself, choosing to follow in the footsteps of the heroic father that his own mother had murdered for money.
And that really leaves us with this final lingering question. 3 people are behind bars, sure. But with a betrayal this deep, coming from inside a family, can justice ever truly restore what was lost? It's just a chilling reminder of the absolutely devastating consequences of greed and betrayal.